Hey everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Azula found Naruto in a prison, and made him her slave, part 2. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Chico Gamer 17. Link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Let's start the story. Hey Azula, you think this is getting out of hand? Naruto asked, but Azula was paying attention to the fight. Well, what's your excuse, Mai? You were an only child for 15 years. But even with all that attention your aura is this stingy, pasty gray. I don't believe aura's Mai interrupted, as she looked at Zuko who only now stood up from his spot. Yeah, you don't believe in anything, Zuko said, his hands were balled into fists on his side. As long as it doesn't involve us Naruto, then no, it hasn't gone out of hand yet. Azula replied, listening to Mai's reply. Oh well, I'm sorry I can't be as high-strung, and crazy, as the rest of you. I'm sorry too. I wish you could be high-strung and crazy for once instead of keeping all of your feelings bottled up inside. Zuko looked at his hands, as he spoke again. She just called your aura stingy. Are you gonna take that? Zuko said, pointing at Ty Lee this time. Mai just decided to lie down on the rock she was sitting on, and said, What do you want from me? You want a teary confession about how hard my childhood was? Well, it wasn't. I was a rich only child who got everything I wanted. As long as I behaved, and sat still, and did not speak unless spoken to. My mother said I had to keep out of trouble. We had my dad's political career to think about. Well, that's it then. You had a controlling mother who had certain expectations. Azula interjected into the conversation. She had her arms crossed in front of her, and if you strayed from them you were shot down. That's why you're afraid to care about anything, and why you can't express yourself. Mai suddenly sat up, her voice finally sounding angry. You want me to express myself? Leave me alone. Azula stared down Mai, as she clenched her hands into fists. I like it when you express yourself, Zuko said, trying to hold Mai, but was slapped away. Don't touch me. I'm still mad at you. Mai heard Naruto laughing, and turned on him. And what about you, Naruto? What was your childhood like? Oh, so you want to hear about my life? Naruto said, as he stood up. He waved his hands over the fire, turning it black. They were all bathed in negative light, and looked at Naruto, as he cleared his throat. They didn't know why, but everyone felt a shiver run down their spine. I was an orphan actually. My parents were both killed by a demon. My early childhood was actually fun. Almost every day I had to look through the garbage of my village to find something decent to eat. The villagers always chased me, and eventually beat me up. You see, I was born on the day my father killed the demon that also killed him, and my mother. My father was the hero, and leader of our village, so there were hard feelings when he died. They thought I was some sort of reincarnation of that damned monster, and made my life hell. The fire suddenly turned back to its original color. I really enjoyed the day I told them I was the son of Minato Namikaze, the fourth leader, and hero of my village. The expressions on their faces were priceless when I killed all of them. He looked at his hands, then up to his friends. You should always remember that someone probably has it out worse. Like my 9th birthday when the villagers dragged me out into the central plaza, and beat me up with sticks and swords. Then they burned me alive. And I can't really remember what happened next. You tend to forget things when your brain shrivels up. Everyone was silent after that. Each of them was reflecting on their own lives, and compared it to Naruto's. Nothing was as bad as his life. I think everyone should calm down now, started Ty Lee, who looked sympathetically at Naruto, who seemed to be deep in thought. This much negative energy is bad for your skin. You'll totally break out. Bad skin? Normal teenagers worry about bad skin, snapped Zuko, looking pointedly at Ty Lee. I don't have that kind of luxury. My father decided to teach me a permanent lesson on my face. He pointed at his scar. Sorry Zuko, for so long I thought that if my dad accepted me I'd be happy. I'm back home now, and my dad talks to me. He barked out a laugh before continuing. He even thinks I'm a hero. Everything should be perfect, right? I should be happy now, but I'm not. I'm angrier than ever, and I don't know why. It's a simple question that you should answer then. Who are you angry at? Asked Azula, placing a hand on Naruto's shoulders, as he sat next to her. No one, I'm just angry. Yeah, who are you angry with, Zuko? Mai asked. Everyone I don't know. Zuko clutched his head in mock pain. Is it Dad? Azula asked. Your uncle? Asked Ty Lee. Me? Asked Azula. No, Zuko answered. Then who are you angry at? Answer the question, Zuko. Talk to us. I'm angry at myself. Zuko slammed his fists down in the air, making the fireplace erupt into a column of flames. Because I don't know what's the difference between right and wrong anymore. You're pathetic. Azula said to Zuko, who was now facing the sea. I know one thing I care about. Mai said, going behind Zuko and hugging him. I care about you. She smiled, and Zuko smiled with her. They both kissed soon after. Zuko stopped when he heard Azula clapping. That was a wonderful performance, everyone. I was almost about to cry because of Zuko's acting. Yeah, you wouldn't understand Azula, because you're so perfect, Zuko said, as he placed an arm around Mai, who did the same. Well, yes, I guess you're right. I don't have sob stories like all of you. I wasn't going with a sob story. I was actually going with horror, Naruto said, smiling like nothing happened. Azula smiled at his humor before continuing. I can sit here and explain about how our mom liked Zuko more than me, but I don't really care. My own mother thought I was a monster. Everyone looked at Azula, who was looking at the glowing embers of the dying fire. She was right, of course, but it still hurt. Naruto laughed at that, and got closer to his new girlfriend, who did the same. What Lo and Lee said came true. The beach did help us learn about ourselves. I feel all smoothed, Ty Lee said, as he picked up a rock and rubbed it with her fingers. I'll always remember this. All of them nodded to her statement except for Naruto, who was looking into the distant sea. Naruto? Zuko asked. Hey guys, is it just me or is that island moving? Naruto said out of the blue, as he pointed out at a small island across from them. Everyone looked, and really saw the island moving. It was slow, but it was moving. That's weird, Ty Lee said. You know what will make this trip really memorable? Azula asked, as he stood up with Naruto, who was still looking at the moving island. All of them went back to Chan's house, and started ransacking the place. The last thing they saw was the crying form of Chan inside his ruined home. Azula looked at the gondola that housed her brother Zuko along with Sokka, Hakoda, and 2 other prisoners she didn't know. They were too far away to jump across to, but that never stopped Azula. Naruto, she called out, as Naruto quickly took out a familiar trikunai. I suggest all of you hold on to me. Both Azula and Ty Lee grabbed onto Naruto's armor. Hiraishin no Jutsu, Naruto threw the kunai hard, puncturing the roof of the gondola. In a streak of gold and black, they reappeared on top of it. How did they do that? Exclaimed Sokka, as he climbed to the top with both Zuko and Suki. This is a rematch I've been waiting for, Suki exclaimed, as she threw a punch at Ty Lee, who barely dodged it. Zuko was currently trading attacks with Azula while Naruto was having a staring contest with Sokka. Well, Sokka started saying while brandishing his weapon, aren't you going to attack? Well, see, that's the thing. If I attack, you might probably just die or something. I'm a bender, and it's pretty obvious that you're not one. So I'm not gonna attack you. What are we gonna do then? Sokka lowered his sword, feeling that this guy was probably telling the truth. Well, first of all, the name's Naruto, and I'm Azula's bodyguard/boyfriend. I'm Sokka, and that's my girlfriend Suki. He pointed to the girl who was duking it out with Ty Lee. Strange, really. If both of them met in different circumstances, they would probably be friends. After all, 2 idiots always get along with one another. Dude, you ever realize that we're attracted to strong women? Tell me about it. Naruto, we are here to capture these fools, not make nice and exchange pleasantries. Azula jumped from Zuko's fireball, and quickly threw a blue one at him. Right. Well, Sokka, if we weren't trying to kill each other, we'd probably be good friends, Naruto said before going into a modified taijutsu stance. The only difference was that he had a straight posture instead, and his hands were clenched into fists. I get that feeling too, Sokka said before lifting up his sword. They were about to fight when the gondola stopped suddenly. Apparently the warden was able to escape his bindings. Cut the lines, he screamed before Chit sang. A prisoner accompanying the group escaped, pulled him back into the stationary gondola. If we cut the lines, the warden won't survive. He knows that, another guard said, as he hoisted the giant saw onto one of the metallic wires. They're cutting the wires. Azula, what are we going to do? Asked Ty Lee. The fighting instantly stopped, as they felt the whole gondola shake. We're leaving, goodbye Zuzu. And with that, she propelled herself to the oncoming gondola along with Ty Lee. Naruto looked at Zuko for a while before saying, So Zuko, you finally found your path, huh? Naruto smiled before walking to the edge of the gondola. Yeah, I did. What about you, Naruto? Don't you know that you're on the wrong path? Naruto's reply was a chuckle, before jumping beside Azula. Sorry Zuko, but I will make my own path. He waved at the group before turning to Azula, only now noticing her scowl. What's wrong, Azula? She looked at Naruto before pointing at the prison. Naruto followed her finger, and saw Mai fighting off a group of guards, as she successfully made the other gondola move again. Ah crap, the other gondola started to move, and soon enough was on the other side of the lake. What is that idiot thinking? Azula jumped off the gondola, and faced Mai, who was being held in place by 2 guards. Why, Azula started, her face a mixture of anger and sadness. You know the consequences of doing what you did, so why? She grabbed the front of Mai's clothes, and pulled her a good 2 feet up into the air. I guess you don't know people, as well as you think, Azula. You miscalculated. I love Zuko more than I love you. Azula threw her to the floor hard, as she clenched her fist in anger. No, Mai, you miscalculated. You should have feared me more. Azula started the right moves to create her lightning, and Mai pulled out one of her knives. Before anyone could kill each other, Ty Lee moved fast enough to strike Azula, blocking her chi, and paralyzing her. Azula fell to the ground, as Ty Lee moved to help Mai up from the ground. Come on! We have to get out of here. Before they could run, a hand landed on both of their shoulders. They looked up to see Naruto, who looked very troubled and sad. Forgive me for this. He channeled electricity through his body and into Mai and Ty Lee, knocking them both out instantly. The guards quickly carried the two unconscious ladies and started walking to the infirmary. Put them somewhere where I don't have to see their faces for a long time. They can rot for all I care, Azula said, as she was hoisted up by two guards. Naruto approached her and reactivated her powers and her mobility with just a few swift strikes to some of her pressure points. And what about you, Naruto? Are you going to betray me? Naruto looked down on the ground, his heart heavy. No, Azula, I love you too much to even think about it. He clenched his hands into fists. What should he do? Mai and Ty Lee were his friends, but so was Azula. Did he even have a choice? Good, because if you were going to betray me, Azula lifted his head up with her fingers, making him look at her directly. Then I would kill you myself. Azula may have looked serious on the outside, but she felt confused on the inside. Would she really be able to do that? Would she be able to really kill Naruto? Of all the people she knew, Naruto was the only one who showed her true love. And Azula loved him back equally. But what would happen if Naruto betrayed her? Would she handle it? Could she handle it? You have nothing to fear, princess. My loyalty is yours, and yours alone. Come on, we have to go. If my brother isn't that much of an idiot, then he probably would have stolen my airship. Azula needed to think of something else. She needed to distract herself from the disturbing thoughts that kept appearing in her mind. Meanwhile, Sokka and Zuko arrived at the Western Air Temple with their friends, and a new airship, courtesy of Princess Azula. They were greeted by Katara and Aang, who were smiling at them. Wow, that must have been one good fishing trip. What happened to the ship? Asked Aang, as he looked at the much larger and sturdier ship. It kinda blew up, replied Sokka sheepishly. But we got presents for you. Is it meat? Asked Toph, who appeared behind Katara. Yes, Toph, the best kind of meat made out of friendship and family. As if on cue, Suki and the rest of the group walked out of the ship. Dad! Exclaimed Katara happily, hugging her father in the process. That night everyone was in a happier mood than usual. Finally, a family was reunited, but it wouldn't last. Azula looked out of her bedroom window. She could see the outlines of the temple. It wouldn't be too long now. By morning they would be at the Western Air Temple, and they would corner the Avatar and his friends. She looked at the doorway where Naruto stood, his features an unreadable mask. Both of them were shocked at Mai and Ty Lee's betrayal, but Azula was the one who felt more pain. They were her first friends, probably her only friends, but still, their actions made her start to doubt everything now. Azula thought that if she turned her back on anyone, they'd stab her. No, she shouldn't start thinking like that. She knew for a fact that Naruto would never betray her, right? Azula felt his arms wrap around her waist, as Naruto placed a soft kiss on her left cheek. Again she demanded, as if hearing those 3 words would destroy all the uncertainty that she held. I love you, Azula, I'll always will. Azula smiled, as she pulled him. You're my Naruto, nothing will take you away from me. And thinking it would go any farther, Azula stood up from a dazed Naruto. Get some rest. We'll be at the temples in a few hours. Aang stretched out on Appa, as he yawned, his air-bending arrows clearly visible in the morning sun. He stood up, and scratched his head before his attention was caught by the chirping of birds at the fountain. He smiled at the scenery before a reflected light made him tilt his head to the left. The object bounced off harmlessly on Appa, and noisily landed on the floor, resulting in everyone waking up. What's this? Said Aang aloud, as he brought it to the group. Sokka looked at it for a while before passing it on to his father. Soon the object reached Zuko, who was still rubbing the sleep from his eyes. He looked down at the object, and paled. Oh no, it was a Trichonai. As if the spirits felt his fear, a shout echoed throughout the cliffs. Hiraishin no Jutsu. A flash of yellow and red blinded the group momentarily, and before them stood Naruto, Azula smiling viciously at his side. Good morning, everyone! Naruto exclaimed loudly, as he gave a mock salute. Have a good night's rest? He looked at the group, and spotted Aang. Oh, so this is the Avatar? Azula, what are you doing here? Zuko stood in front of the group, and slowly got into a fighting stance. Isn't it obvious? I'm going to celebrate being an only child. She charged at Zuko, shooting blue flames at him. Zuko! Aang shouted, as he tried running towards him. But he was stopped when Naruto raised both hands in a way that said stop. Naruto was staring down the group, especially Aang. I actually thought that the avatar would be older than this, he said casually before throwing something at them. Aang caught it in midair, and saw that it was another Trikunai. Wrong move, avatar! At one moment he was 10 feet away, and in the blink of an eye, Naruto delivered a powerful right hook at Aang, sending him flying to the other side of the room. The others didn't fare any better with him, as he unleashed a flurry of blows that left everyone on the ground. Toph was the first one to get up, and created a rock pillar that sent Naruto flying. He quickly readjusted in midair, and landed in a crouch. Earthbender Naruto's anger resurfaced, and his one-tailed state quickly surfaced. With inhuman speed he started sprinting towards Toph, who was raising blocks of earth to try and stop him. But Naruto just kept dodging or jumping over them, as he went down on all fours. Stop! Katara used the water from the fountain to create a wave, and encase Naruto in ice. But his cloak just melted it almost instantly. Naruto didn't stop until he was right in front of Toph. He raised his claws, and was about to strike down Toph when his body stopped moving. He looked over his shoulder, and saw Katara. She was bloodbending. Leave her alone. Katara uses bloodbending to force him to kneel down. You think you can control me? A claw made out of chakra shot out of his cloak quickly flew towards Katara. No! Toph quickly created a dome of earth that surrounded Naruto. This action quickly cancelled out the chakra arm. Who the hell is this guy? A low grumble was heard inside the dome before it shattered under the sonic boom that was Naruto's roar. Nothing will stop me. Never again. He slammed both hands on the ground, and the whole temple shook. Meanwhile Azula and Zuko's fight moved on top of the various airships that were pelting the temple with bombs. Zuko was dodging his sister's flames, and shot another one at her. Both of their flames met in the center, causing them to both stumble and fall off the ship. They were in a free fall when Appa swooped down and caught Zuko harmlessly. He looked back at the still falling form of Azula and said, "She's not going to make it." Just then Naruto appeared behind her and disappeared in a flash of light. Of course she was. Zuko looked at his friends and saw that they weren't looking all too good. Aang had a black eye. The others sported a few bruises and cuts. He sighed before talking. Maybe I should explain who that guy was. If only the group saw the object that was tucked inside Sokka's belt. At Azula's flagship things were way different. Azula was again on top of Naruto, but both still wore their armor. Her fingers were tangled in Naruto's hair while her other hands were around his neck. Her fingernails cut deep into his skin. Azula kept kissing him, as if her actions would cement him by her side forever. She didn't want to lose him. The actions of both her friends were still eating away at her from the back of her mind. She was starting to get paranoid. Naruto could clearly see the troubled look in his girlfriend's eyes. He promised that day that he will make sure nothing will ever harm Azula. Nothing will ever make her feel this way ever again. And Uzumaki Naruto never broke his promises. Naruto watched as Azula tossed and turned in her sleep. She was having a nightmare right now. He slowly caressed her cheek, making her calm down and smile. He smiled down at her and kissed her softly. She subconsciously grabbed his hand and hugged it. He had to do something to get her mind off of what was currently happening. He leaned on the windowsill and thought for a while. And, as if the spirits heard him, a piece of paper flew through the window and landed in front of him. He picked it up and read it. The boy in the iceberg. Next morning, back at Ember Island, we find Aang practicing fire bending with Zuko in the abandoned summer house. Both of them did synchronized fire bending before stopping and bowing to each other. Zuko sat down near the dried-up fountain that was located in the center of the backyard, while Aang proceeded to stretch up. Doesn't it seem weird that we were hiding from the Fire Lord in his own house? Katara, who was sitting on the sidelines, faced Toph, who was beside her. She looked like she was sleeping. I told you, my father hasn't come here since our family was actually happy, Zuko said, as he dried himself off with a towel. And that was a long time ago. It's the last place anyone would think to look for us. Hey, you guys are not gonna believe this. Sokka entered the backyard, holding a rolled-up poster of sorts. There's a play about us. We were just in town when we found this poster, Suki continued, as Sokka opened it up so that everyone could see. What? How is that possible? Katara asked, as she stood up to get a closer look at the poster along with Aang. Listen to this, Sokka started, as he cleared his throat. The Boy in the Iceberg is a new production from acclaimed playwright Pu Wantim, who traveled the globe gathering information on the Avatar from the icy South Pole to the heart of Ba Sing Se. He flipped the poster so that everyone could see it again. His sources include singing nomads, pirates, prisoners of war, and a surprisingly knowledgeable merchant of cabbage. Brought to you by the critically acclaimed Ember Island players, continued Suki, as she read the last part. Zuko made a sound of disgust at the mention of them. My mother used to take us to see them. They butchered love amongst the dragons every year. They all looked at Zuko before Katara spoke. Sokka, do you really think it's a great idea to attend a play about ourselves? Come on a day at the theater? This is the kind of wacky time-wasting nonsense I've been missing. Sokka gave them a goofy wide grin. Meanwhile, Naruto and Azula arrived at the docks of Ember Island. This time no one greeted them because it was only the two of them. Naruto carried both of their luggages before proceeding to the hotel they were staying at. After much discussion, Azula agreed to some downtime in preparation for the day Sozin's comet would arrive. They were both in Fire Nation civilian clothing, but Naruto's clothes were customized to have long sleeves and pants. All of it was a dark shade of orange. Why are we here again? Azula tilted her shades downwards to better look at Naruto. He was currently looking at a map of the island. Last time they were here they only went to the beach and Chan's house. Not once did they go into town. We are here to relax and spend some time with each other, Azula. Naruto dug into his pockets and pulled out 2 tickets to the play The Boy in the Iceberg, and we are going to watch the new play the Ember Island players are presenting. The Ember Island players, Naruto, you do know that they aren't that good at all. That's what's going to make it more fun. Look, the play is about the Avatar and his little group. Would it be funny to see them ridiculed and getting mocked? He said, as he handed the tickets to Azula. I suppose you're right. But what are we going to do until then? Azula looked at the tickets over, reading the summary that was printed on it. Well, we're going to have lunch first, and then we're going to spend some time on the beach. After that we're going to have dinner before watching the show. Naruto smiled, as he gave a thumbs up to Azula. Alright, let's go find our hotel. Theater. Up in the balconies, Aang and his friends were taking their seats, as it was almost time for the show to start. Toph sat to the farthest left, Katara beside her. Aang was about to sit next to her when Zuko sat between them. Hey, I wanted to sit there, Aang said, as he scratched the back of his head before holding them together. Zuko, who was wearing a hood, looked up at Aang and replied, just sit next to me, what's the big deal? I just wanted to be okay. Aang just sat down beside him, deciding not to draw attention to them by arguing. Why are we sitting in the nosebleed section? Toph asked, as she gestured to their location. My feet can't see a thing from up here. The theater lights dimmed, as she said that. Don't worry, I'll tell your feet what's happening, Katara said sarcastically, placing both of her hands on her lap. The curtains opened, and they were greeted by a scene of 2 actors that were dressed like Sokka and Katara. They were rowing a boat in the middle of the sea. Katara smiled, as Sokka grabbed her shoulder, pointing to both of them while squealing. Actress Katara sighed, as she raised her right arm into the air. The difference between the real one and the actress was that the actress was quite fat and unattractive. Sokka, my only brother, we constantly roam these icy South Pole seas, and yet never do we find anything fulfilling. She looked down and clenched her fist, her eyes closed. Actor Sokka then spoke up. All I want is a full feeling in my stomach. I'm starving. Everyone seemed to laugh at his acting, including Azula and Naruto, who were occupying the seats reserved for the royal family. Sokka and Katara, however, deadpanned. She looked up to her brother, as they shared the same expression. Is food the only thing on your mind? Actress Katara asked. Well, I'm trying to get it out of my mind and into my mouth. I'm starving. The audience burst into laughter again while Sokka whispered to Katara, who had her hands crossed over her chest. This is pathetic. My jokes are way funnier than this. Toph's response was to laugh and say, I think he's got you pegged. Actress Katara stood up from the boat and said, Every day the world awaits a beacon to guide us, yet none appears. Still, we cannot give up hope, for hope is all we have. She collapsed to the side of the boat while crying, and we must never relinquish it, even to our dying breaths. She started to wail out loud, burying her face in her palms. Well, that's just silly. I don't sound like that, Katara said, as Suki and Sokka tried to contain their laughter. Oh man, this writer is a genius, exclaimed Toph, as she placed both hands behind her head. A light suddenly switched on, and there on the stage was the iceberg. It appears that someone's frozen in ice. Perhaps for 100 years, actress Katara said. Am I laughing because I'm bored, or is it because this play is so stupid that it's starting to look funny? Naruto asked Azula, who was still giggling. Who knows? But who? Actor Sokka asked. Inside the iceberg the silhouette of Aang was clearly visible. Who is the boy in the iceberg? Aang was at the edge of his seat smiling while actress Katara shouted, Waterbend, Haya. She did a chopping motion, as the iceberg split in 2. Fog started to spew out of the rock, and out jumped a female version of Aang, who gave the audience a wink. A few claps could be heard from the crowd, as Aang joined Katara and Sokka, as they shared a look of shock. Who are you frozen boys? actress Katara said. I'm the Avatar Silly, here to spread joy and fun. The actress playing, as Aang was twirling around, as she said this. Wait, is that a woman playing me? Aang asked before a hilarious version of Appa flew out from behind the iceberg, making various sounds that a dog would make. An airbender. My heart is so full of hope that it's making me tear up. Actress Katara then started to wail again while holding the leg of actress Aang. My stomach is so empty that it's making me tear up. Actor Sokka also started wailing, as he grabbed the other leg of actress Aang. I need meat. Actress Aang then gasped, as she circled an arm around actor Sokka's neck, pointing out into the distance. But wait, is that a platter of meaty dumplings? Ooh, where? Actress Aang started to laugh, as she sat down on the edge of the iceberg. Did I mention that I'm an incurable prankster? The audience started to laugh, as Aang seethed in anger. I don't do that. I'm not like that. And I'm not a woman. Toph was laughing, as she said, oh, they nailed your twinkle toes. A Fire Nation ship appeared on stage, and on it was a fat version of Iroh, an actor Zuko who had the scar on the wrong side. Prince Zuko, you must try this cake. I don't have time to stuff my face. I must capture the Avatar to regain my honor. Well, while you do that, maybe I'll capture another slice, actor Iroh said, as he started wolfing down the whole cake. You sicken me. They make me look totally stiff and humorless, the real Zuko said while Katara had a look of knowing on her face. Actually, I think the actors are pretty spot on. How could you say that? Let's forget about the Avatar and get massages, actor Iroh said. How could you say that? Actor Zuko screamed. The scenery changed to Avatar in one of the air temples. It depicted her finding Momo. Oh look, it's a flying rabbit monkey. I think I'll name it Momo. Hi everybody, I love you, Puppet Momo said, as the crowd erupted in laughter. Aang just slouched down on his chair, as he started to rub his temples. Ugh. The scene changed again to show actress Sokka standing beside actress Suki. Both were dressed as Kyoshi warriors. Does this dress make my butt look fat? The crowd erupted in laughter while Suki tried to hide her giggling. An actor dressed up as King Bumi appeared atop a pillar of earth while he said, riddles and challenges you must face if you are ever going to leave this place. Below him, the other actors were dodging various traps and such. Why did you have to steal that water-bending scroll? The scene changed to the time Aang was fighting the pirates. It just gave me so much hope, cried actress Katara again. The scene changed several times before they arrived at the scene where they were at the Northern Water Tribe. Don't go you. You're the only girl who's gotten my mind off of food, actor Sokka said before kissing actress Yu. You never told me you made out with the moon spirit, Suki said before she was silenced by a teary-eyed Sokka. I'm trying to watch. The scene ended, as actress Aang said, the Avatar is back to save the day. The crowd cheered and whistled, as Aang and his friends deadpanned. It was the intermission, and Naruto brought Azula out to get some food. We have to hurry, before we miss the next scene, Naruto said, as he looked for a proper food stall. Don't tell me you're actually enjoying this? Azula asked, laughing at Naruto. I'm not enjoying it, but it will be all a waste of time if we don't see it from beginning to end. Naruto made a turn on the corner before he stopped. Across from him were Zuko and the Avatar. He quickly turned before Azula could see what was behind the corner. On second thought, let's not risk it. What? At least get me some flaming fire flakes. Azula pouted before Naruto made a Kage Bunshin, and made it look like another person. The clone quickly dashed to the food stalls. There. All taken care of. No way am I letting her see those guys. I brought her here to relax. Don't fight. Meanwhile the rest of the group was sitting at the stairway that led to their seats. Sokka entered with a bag full of Sizzle Crisps. This intermission is probably the best part of the play, Zuko said heatedly. Apparently the playwright thinks I'm an idiot who tells bad jokes about meat all the time, Sokka said, as he sat down beside Suki. Yeah, you tell bad jokes about plenty of other topics, Suki said, rolling her eyes. I know, Sokka replied, chewing a piece of his snack. At least the Sokka actor looked like you. That woman playing the Avatar doesn't even resemble me at all, Aang said, as he gripped both sides of his head. I don't know. You are more in touch with your feminine side than most guys, Toph said, making Aang growl in anger. Relax, Aang, they're not accurate portrayals. It's not like I'm a preachy cry-baby who can't resist giving over-emotional speeches about hope all the time. Everyone didn't give a reply. What? Yeah, that's not you at all, Aang said, scratching the back of his neck. Listen, friends, it's obvious that the playwright did his research. I know it must hurt, but what you're seeing up there on that stage is the truth, Toph said. All of them soon took their seats, as the next scene came into play. Well, here we are in the Earth Kingdom, actress Katara said, as Sokka and Aang stood beside her. I'd better look around to see if I can find an earth-bending teacher. actress Aang said before pulling out a mini glider, and flew off stage. This is it. This is where I come in, Toph said happily. The actress landed back on stage. I flew all over town, but couldn't find a single earth-bending master. Here it comes. Toph leaned forward on her chair in anticipation. The rock prop that was in the middle of the stage suddenly went up, as a buff man lifted it up from under the stage. You can't find an earth-bending master in the sky. You have to look underground. He threw the prop off stage. The group burst into laughter. Who are you? Actress Aang said. Actor Toph spat on the ground before saying, My name's Toph because it sounds like tough. The actor then flexed his muscles for the whole audience to see. And that's just what I am. Wait a minute. The real Toph started, as she cleaned out her ears. I sound like a guy. A really buff guy. Well, Toph, what you hear out there is the truth. It hurts, doesn't it? Katara said, not noticing the grin on Toph's face. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't have cast it any other way. She started to laugh. At least I'm not a flying bald lady. So you're blind? Actress Aang said, waving her hands in front of the giant. He laughed before saying, I can see you doing that. I see everything that you see. Except I don't see like you do. I release a sonic wave from my mouth. He proceeded to scream at the other actors. There, I got a pretty good look at you. The audience clapped at his performance. The scene changed to Zuko, and Iroh arguing about Zuko's hair. Zuko, it's time we had a talk about your hair. It's gone too far. The actor playing Zuko waved his hair dramatically before saying, maybe it's best if we split up. Both actors exited on different sides of the stage. The scene changed again. Azula, my sister, what are you doing here? At the sound of her name, Azula perked up, and sat at the edge of her seat. You caught me. Wait, what's that? I think it's your honor. The whole group turned to where Azula was pointing while she, herself disappeared through a trapdoor. Where? Actor Zuko said. The group looked back while Katara said, she escaped. But how? Naruto looked at Azula, who had a blank expression on her face. Is she pissed? The scene changed to the time where Azula was drilling into the outer walls of Ba Sing Se. The whole audience was clearly starting to get bored. The next scene was a confusing one that made Zuko comment, Did Jet just die? You know, it was very unclear. Sokka replied. The next scene that showed Zuko and Katara flirting with each other made the real ones uncomfortable while Aang stood up and walked out. Can you get me some fire flakes? Sokka asked, as Suki leaned on him. Oh, and fire gummies. Screw this. I'm going to get something to eat. What about you, Azula? Her response was shushing Naruto. Naruto stood up and walked out. Out on the balcony, Aang was looking out into the sea when he heard someone approaching. He didn't bother looking though. Is this the snack bar? Nope, another dead end. Naruto saw a figure under the balcony light and called his attention. Hey, do you know where the snack bar is? The figure sighed and turned. Yeah, it's over. As soon as Aang saw him, he immediately got into a fighting stance. You! I should have known the Fire Nation would send you to kill me and my friends. Whoa, hold on there, Avatar, let me clear things up first. The Fire Nation does not train or hire assassins. None of the nations do anymore. Second, I'm on a day off with my girlfriend, so fighting is not on my agenda tonight. Third, I saw you and your friends during the first intermission, so if I was sent here to kill you, you'd already be dead. Lightening up, Naruto stepped up to Aang, who had lowered his guard. Besides, I'm not on the battlefield. I tend to not mix work and play. Oh, and fourth, Naruto moved so fast Aang didn't even notice until he felt the feeling of cold steel on his neck. Fighting me is useless. Naruto laughed at the expression that was on Aang's face. He lowered the dagger and slid it back into his sleeve. See, I could have killed you right now, but I didn't. Why? Because I'm not on orders. His manic grin turned into a kind one. Now why don't we chat a little? Both of us know that we aren't going back there. He jerked a thumb in the direction of the main hall. Naruto laughed while Aang still looked serious. Why didn't you? Aang started. Why didn't you kill me just now? Or in the beginning for that matter? Aren't you supposed to be a demon? Naruto flicked Aang on the forehead. His face showed playful annoyance. Use you inside voice, Aang, we aren't in a marketplace. And to answer your questions, I already told you I'm not under orders. Get that through your thick bald head. And yes, I am a demon, Aang. Probably the most powerful being on Earth right now. But that doesn't mean I should be killing all the time. He smiled before asking, who told you about me? Zuko? Aang shook his head and replied, Avatar Roku, the avatar before me, came to me in one of my dreams. He warned me about you. He said watch out for the man with crimson eyes. Is that right? Naruto said, as he walked back to the main hall. Well, it was nice meeting you, Avatar Aang. Hopefully we won't meet ever again. Oh, and fair warning, Ozai isn't someone you should hesitate in trying to take down. Janna. He walked out just as Katara entered the balcony area. Are you alright? Naruto walked back into the viewing box holding a bag full of fire flakes and ice cream. What did I miss? He asked, as he handed Azula the ice cream. What did I? The Avatar got better, they invaded the Fire Nation, they were pushed back, and now they're showing what would happen when Sozin's comet arrives. Miss, you're enjoying this, aren't you? SSHHH. It's already starting. On the other side of the theater, things weren't so different. Well, started Sokka, as he got up and stretched. The play's over since is already caught up to the present. Suki pulled him back down again. The plays are not over yet, look. But the play should be over unless this is the future. For some reason an eerie light covered the bottom half of Sokka's face. Like what you do with a flashlight. Naruto really didn't watch what happened next. Both he and Aang were staring at each other from across the theater. Aang was seated next to Sokka and Suki. He smiled and waved at him, causing Aang to look away. Why is everyone so uptight these days? So what if there's a war? I was able to live a relatively normal life during the 4th Great Shinobi War. I had time to relax. These people need to learn to loosen up. The play ended without Naruto knowing. Azula joined the crowd in cheering at the death of the Avatar, and Zuko. Naruto looked up at Azula, who was clapping and cheering. He was about to say something when something hit him. I wasn't in the play, was I? Nope, Azula said, still clapping with the crowd. The curtains went up again to show that the actors were all lined up. They bowed together before the lead actress Aang spoke. Thank you for being such a great audience. We would also like to thank Princess Azula for gracing us with her highness presence. A spotlight turned on to show where Azula was. The whole crowd clapped for her except for the Avatar, and his friends who were stunned to see Azula was there all alone. Azula then pulled Naruto to the spotlight, who just scratched the back of his head sheepishly while smiling. This just shocked everyone more. Naruto's dating your sister? Katara asked, pointing at the couple. They knew who he was since Zuko had told them a lot about him, even mentioning some of his powers. Dude, Sokka said, standing up and clapping for Naruto. Everyone looked at him before he explained. What? Naruto seems like a nice guy, and I'm happy that he found someone, even if that someone is Azula. Should we leave? Asked Suki, watching the couple like a hawk. There's no need, Aang said, catching everyone's attention. When I met him during the intermission, he said he was here on a day off, so he's not here to attack us. How do you know it was all true? Asked Zuko, preparing for anything that might happen. Because he had every opportunity to kill me, and he didn't. He had his blade on my neck, and he intentionally let me go. Everyone was shocked at that statement. Aang was almost killed tonight? Why didn't he die? Do you ever get the feeling that if we weren't enemies with him, he could be a really good friend? Asked Sokka, as Aang and Zuko nodded in agreement. By tomorrow morning, they would be heading back to the Fire Nation. Hopefully, Naruto's plan of relaxation helped Azula forget about most of her troubles, if not only a little. It looked like it was working though. She seems more relaxed than usual, and she does not have her usual scowl. She looked, for once, peaceful. Naruto smiled before putting an arm around her neck. Azula, did I ever tell you I love you? Yes, you have actually. But you could say it more. Meanwhile, little did Aang know that Naruto had placed an invisible seal on his neck. More ferocious, Zuko ordered Aang, as he weaved through different fire-bending moves. Imagine striking through your enemy's heart. Aang thrust his fist forward, sending a stream of flame gushing out of his fist. I'm trying, Aang said, as he did a few more moves that included both his hands and feet. Now let me hear you roar like a tiger-dillo. Aang spread his hands and roared, only for a 2-foot flame to shoot out of his hands and mouth. That sounded pathetic. I said roar. Aang complied, and roared, sending the flames a good 10 feet into the sides and air. Momo, who was behind Aang, got scared, and ran to a nodding Zuko. Who wants a nice cold glass of watermelon juice? Katara asked, as she held up 2 of the beverages into the air. Me. Aang started running towards the house only for Zuko to grab him by his collar. Hey, your lessons are not over yet. Aang probably didn't hear him, as he still continued to run. Get back here! Zuko hoisted Aang a few feet up in the air, causing the Avatar to stop. Come on Zuko, just take a break. What's the big deal? Suki asked from beside Sokka, who was also drinking watermelon juice, but had a very blank expression on his face. Fine. As soon as Aang touched the ground he was already halfway towards Katara. If you want to lounge around like a bunch of snail sloths all day, then go ahead. He walked off towards the beach. Maybe Zuko's right. Sokka looked up to his sister. Sitting in the house all day long has made us pretty lazy. But I know just the thing to change that. Sokka was instantly out of his clothes, revealing that he was wearing swimming shorts underneath. Beach party. Soon everyone was dressed, and running down the beach, even Zuko. Meanwhile, Azula was sitting on top of her bed, thinking. Just a few moments ago her father Fire Lord Ozai, had made her the next Fire Lord since he was going to be the new Phoenix King, the ruler of the new world. She was actually happy right now, but she had a nagging suspicion about what people thought about her being the new Fire Lord. Did they accept her? Sure, she wasn't the kindest of people, but she was still a brilliant military strategist, and a good leader. Was that enough for the people though? Would they still accept her if she wasn't nice? Probably not. People will always want their leaders to be someone more pleasant. She couldn't trust anyone, everyone was after her. They were just waiting for a chance to stab her in the back. But she could trust Naruto, right? Naruto loved her so he wouldn't betray her, right? No, Mai and Ty Lee were also her friends, and they ended up betraying her. Azula looked at Naruto's sleeping form, and thought for a while. Would he really betray her? They loved each other, right? Azula sighed before lying down. She shouldn't think like this. He did say that stress wasn't good for the body. She turned on the bed to look at him. Seeing his peaceful face seemed to destroy all doubts inside her. Naruto wouldn't betray Azula. She knew that for sure. Besides, Naruto was her property. Something you own wouldn't think about betraying you. A dog wouldn't bite its master's hand. And if push came to shove, she would just strike him down, and throw him into another prison. She didn't need a defective tool. It was a good thing Naruto was very useful to her. Mysterious Island. Aang was surprised that the island was actually a very large, and rare, lion turtle. He was even more surprised that there was such a thing as energy bending, and he now knew how to use it. He just had to do one more thing. Aang sat down on the ground, and started meditating. Soon enough the spirit form of Avatar Kior took shape in front of him. Ah, Avatar Aang, what a pleasant surprise, the first Avatar said with a smile. Avatar Kior, I need your guidance. Only you know how to do this. And what is that, young one? He asked, now bearing a serious expression. How did you defeat the demon, Naruto? I had hoped that the prison that I made for that being would last forever. Avatar Aang, you must know this. Even with all of my powers, and with the help of countless allies, it was very difficult even harming that monster. Energy bending would only cripple him for a fraction of a second. That's all the time you have until he gets back up. During those few precious seconds you must trap him inside a prison made out of all four elements. The purity of these elements together will nullify his demonic powers. I must warn you, Aang. Do not hesitate in your fight, or he will surely kill you. With that Avatar Kior, the first avatar faded out of existence. Aang stood up from the ground, and prepared to find his friends. He had a plan, and he would need all of their combined powers to bring Naruto down. Things started to go from bad to worse for the Fire Nation. They had just received the news that the Avatar along with a whole army of water and earth benders had successfully stopped the air fleet that was headed towards the Earth Kingdom. Now, the scouts had reported that the army was heading for the Fire Nation homeland itself. This was not what Azula wanted to hear from the messenger, and he was soon but a pile of ash for the janitors to clean up. Naruto took it all in stride, however. He was not worried. Why should he be? He knew for a fact he could easily mop the floor with that bald-headed brat. Maybe he should try to calm Azula down. He could easily see that she was starting to go unstable. There was this look in her eye that just said danger. Currently, both Azula and Naruto are in their bedrooms. Azula was sprawled out on the bed, her head dipping down on the edge of the bed. Naruto was sitting quietly on the windowsill, looking out intently at the horizon. It was like he could see the enemy's ships from a mile away, which he could actually. Azula let out a loud sigh which instantly caught his attention. I'm bored. Naruto, entertain me, Azula announced, as she sat up on her bed. And what is it that you want me to do? Naruto asked, as a playful smirk crossed his face. He could easily read her expressions and body language as she stood up from the bed and approached Naruto. Why don't you? She started, as her arms encircled Naruto. Take off that stuffy armor, and Azula was cut off when a guard came bursting through the door. What the FUC do you want? Azula shouted out. She never liked it when people barged into her room. She looked at the guard menacingly, as smoke started to come out of her clenched fists. If the guard didn't speak now, then he'd be dead in a few seconds. Fire Lord Azula B. Boiling Rock was attacked and the prisoners escaped. They said it was the Avatar, and his army. He was practically wetting himself at that point. It didn't help that he saw electricity lancing through her body. Get out now! The guard ran, as fast as his legs could take him, and was soon at the other side of the palace. At that point, Azula started to scream and shout obscenities non-stop. It always had to be something to ruin her mood. She screamed one more time, as the whole room burst into flames. Meanwhile, Naruto was just idly standing at the side, not even worried that his skin was starting to boil. Thinking carefully, he did one thing that might calm her down by kissing her. Feel better? Naruto asked, as Azula slowly opened her eyes. A scowl soon appeared on her face as she spoke. Not only do we have the Earth Kingdom and water tribes to worry about, but now, even firebenders are against us. Why is it that being a ruler is not how it's cracked up to be? Trust me, it never is. Naruto replied, as he looked out of the window again. What should Naruto do? Azula rubbed her temples, as she felt one of her biggest headaches approaching. Leave it to me, was all Naruto said before disappearing in a flash of yellow and black. Meanwhile, Aang stood on the deck of the Water Tribe's flagship. He was tired from the fight with Ozai, but he still had one more thing to do. Across the horizon was the Fire Nation capital, along with it was Azula, and Naruto, the person who was obviously the toughest to defeat. He looked back, and saw all of his friends standing behind him. Everyone was going to give their full support when it came down to the last battle. He sighed before looking back out on the horizon, and spoke in a whisper. I'm coming for you, demon. Not if I come after you first. A fist connected to Aang's jaw, sending him flying towards the others. With a loud thump, he toppled over at least half of his friends. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Naruto said, as he rose from his crouched position. Sorry to keep you waiting. I was distracted a while ago, but now I can give all of you my undivided attention. He lowered himself into a taijutsu stance, not that anyone knew what it was anymore, and spoke one last time. Alright, who wants to die first? Naruto dodged, and weaved through streams of flame and water. It was easy to dodge the attacks with his inhuman speed. He dodged another wave of fire before something wrapped around his leg. Naruto looked down only to see that the metal from the flooring had crumpled under his feet, gluing him in place. Oh, metal bending? I never saw that before. He easily got his feet out of the trap before a wall of flames struck his back. He fell down to the ground before water splashed onto him, and quickly turned to ice. You kids are getting better at this. Naruto let out a laugh before he burst into flames. The ice soon melted, and he slowly stood up, looking at the faces of his enemies. Only during this time did he really get to observe and see who was there. Aang, Katara, Sokka, Zuko, and Toph stood in front of him. Behind them stood Iroh along with a few faces he didn't recognize. You outnumber Naruto, surrender, and we'll go easy on you, Aang said, as he got into a fighting stance along with the rest of his friends. Baka, did you forget what I am? You actually think that you kids could defeat me? He raised up both hands to reveal that he held 6 trichonized in between his fingers. Let me show you a fraction of my powers. He let fly the deadly blades, and soon disappeared in a flash, knocking down everyone present. Sheesh, it's like you want to lose. Naruto laughed again until something struck him in the chest, causing him to cough out blood. He looked down to see a red knife lodged inside the gap of his armor. His smile faltered, as he looked up to the attacker. It's good to see you again, my Ty Lee. True enough, his 2 friends stood before him, Mai holding her signature knives while Ty Lee stood beside her, a look of sadness etched on her face. You don't have to do this, Naruto. You and I both know that Azula holds no power over you, Mai said calmly. Her fists were balled up in anticipation. She knew that fighting him would mean certain death. Did I ever say she ever did? I'm doing this on my own free will, he said, as he shrugged, quickly pulling out the knife. Then why don't you join us? Don't you see that this war has caused enough suffering? Don't you want to help us, and make this world a better place? When Naruto looked somber, Mai had thought she had won him over. But, this world will always have suffering. Even if you miraculously defeat me, and Azula, it wouldn't make a difference. Another one would do the same thing in time. Trust me, I have lived long enough to know that the cycle will always repeat itself. Besides, Naruto said, as he looked Mai in the eye, showing off an evil grin, I was born to fight, so I prefer it this way. With speed unmatched, he appeared before Mai, and was about to hit her when Ty Lee appeared in front of him, and hit a few of his pressure points, causing him to falter a few steps back. Aha, so even the kind-hearted Ty Lee would attack me? Naruto inspected his body, and found that his arms were paralyzed. Please Naruto, we're friends. We shouldn't fight. Ty Lee clutched her hands over her heart, as if holding it. Friends? Naruto thought before a memory flashed through his vision. It was an image of Sasuke, and the time they attacked Azula, and that caused him to flare up considerably. Friends? Friends stab you in the back, like what Sasuke did to me, like what you did to Azula. It was obvious that their current conditions along with bad memories were making Naruto pissed. The actions of Mai and Ty Lee, and what they did to Azula had also affected him, though he did not show it. Their actions painfully reminded him of his past, a past that he wanted buried forever. Playtime's over. Naruto performed a quick succession of hand seals before saying a few words. Docks. Azula was standing atop her personal ship. In front of her was the whole Fire Nation army on their own ships. They were all dressed up in full armor, and everyone was prepared for battle. But why were they out in the middle of nowhere? Many of the soldiers were asking this question with one another, but they dare not ask Fire Lord Azula. That would be suicide. Azula, however, was calm, as opposed to her soldiers. She knew what was about to happen, and couldn't help but smile. This petty war would end sooner than everyone thought. Fire Lord, something's happening to the water. A soldier shouted out, causing everyone to look over the railing. There, just above the water's surface, various words and symbols started to appear. No one had a clue on what it was except for Azula, again. This was a seal array. One of the things that Naruto had taught her, and this particular seal only did one thing. Brace yourselves, the Fire Lord shouted out to the whole fleet, and the soldiers did what they were told, and soon a bright flash of light blinded them. The soldiers' vision soon returned, and were surprised by what they saw. In front of them was the whole enemy fleet, somehow appearing out of thin air. They were all confused about what had just happened, that is, until Azula gave out an order. Fire at will. The soldiers compiled, and it was soon raining fire. The Avatar's army was able to get close enough to the Fire Nation fleet, and boarded the ships. An all-out battle soon took place. The air was filled with the sounds of battle cries, and the stench of death. Through it all, Naruto had finally reached Azula. As she watched the battle, an evil grin spreading through her face, as she watched Naruto approach her. "Didn't I tell you that I'd deliver your enemies to you?" Naruto asked, as he placed both hands behind his head, and smiled. "You certainly did. Now let's end this, and be on our way. I'd like to be home before dinner." Naruto was about to say something when a fireball hit him square in the back. As the smoke receded, there on the other side of the ship were Aang, Katara, and Zuko. "It's time we ended this, Azula," Zuko said, as he stared at her down. "What a coincidence. I was thinking the same thing, but let's do it in a more appropriate setting." She gave a nod to Naruto, and within another flash, they were suddenly back at the palace courtyards. "Now then, Zuzu, why don't we settle this little sibling rivalry with an Agni Kai to the death?" And there they were, across the yard from them. They were at least 100 yards away from them. All of them were wearing a look of determination on their faces. This would be the battle that would decide the fate of the 4 nations. This would be the battle that would decide the fate of the whole world. This was the final battle. Naruto, for his part, was wearing his trademark manic grin. His eyes reflected insanity and bloodlust, but at the same time a calmness that could only be created from battle experience. His clawed hands were beside him, and if you were any other person, you would notice his hands flinch now and then. But in reality, Naruto was doing one-handed seals with both of his hands. When given the order, he would unleash one of his more powerful techniques. "Is this how it's going to be, Azula?" Zuko started, as he clenched his fists. "Is it really impossible for you to just surrender?" Naruto looked at Azula, who was wearing her own smile. Or was it a grin? Those words can only come out from a coward. Azula shouted back the same time she slowly started walking towards Naruto. She stopped when she was in front of him, and spoke again. "You already know that this won't end well for you. All of you know that you cannot defeat me." And Naruto at the same time, as she said this, she gently caressed Naruto's face, which in turn, he wrapped his arms around his lover. "Love, be a dear, and take out the trash, will you?" With pleasure, Naruto replied, as he went around Azula, and faced the enemies. With both feet planted firmly on the ground, he raised both his hands up, and formed a triangle with both of his pointer finger and thumbs. Everyone was on bated breath at that point. Suki and Sokka stood side by side, brandishing their weapons along with Mai and Tylee. On the other side were the Benders. Aang, Katara, Toph, and Zuko were in their respective battle stances. Naruto let out a sigh, as he began to talk. "It's really a shame that it has to end like this." But his arms went rigid, as energy started to gather in between his hands. "Are you guys ready? Don't blink or else you might miss it." Seal. A bright light shot out from his hands, and engulfed the whole area with pure white. Everyone was ready, and dodged out of the way of the triangle-shaped beam of energy. They were blinded for a few moments until the color of the world returned. In the space between Team Avatar was a gaping hole. It was like something literally dug out the ground, and the building behind them sported an enormous triangle-shaped hole. "Hey, you weren't supposed to move," Naruto whined, as he waved both arms up and down in a very ridiculous manner. This in turn made Aang angry that they weren't being taken seriously, and lashed out at Naruto. "Stop playing around. For once fight us seriously." "Oh, you want me to fight seriously, you say?" They all shuddered at seeing Naruto's grin go wider. "Fine then, I'll fight you seriously." In a second, Naruto looked deep inside of him, and harnessed the pure form of the Chakras Kyuubi. In another flash of light, Naruto had transformed into what can only be described as an ethereal-like being. His body was covered with pure energy, and various markings appeared on his body. Naruto looked at himself, and let out a soft chuckle. It's been a long time since I used this form. He looked at his right hand, and suddenly flicked it, causing the ground to shake violently. Now then, why don't we get this party started? With unmatched speed, Naruto slammed both of his fists into the ground, and caused a fissure to appear. It raced towards the avatar, and, as soon as the fissure was a few feet from them, spikes of earth erupted from it. They raced towards the group, but were blocked by Toph's stone wall. Acting quickly, Naruto thrust both of his hands forward, and in turn, caused the wall to explode, sending Team Avatar flying backwards. Aang was slowly standing up, but was forced to roll out of the way when Naruto came crashing down on the ground with a super-powered Rasengan in hand. Too slow, Naruto shouted, as he flipped in mid-air, and delivered a devastating heel drop on Aang. Before the full force of the attack could be felt, a fireball sent Naruto rolling on the ground backwards. Aang! Katara exclaimed, as she helped Aang. Zuko stood in front of them with his fist raised in front of him. The smoke cleared just enough for Zuko to dodge an uppercut from Naruto before he was kicked in the gut, and was sent flying backwards. You're getting sloppy, Zuko. The ground beneath Naruto shook, as 4 walls of earth rose from the ground, and encased him inside a prison of stone. Acting quickly, Toph pushed both of her fists together, causing the prison to tighten, and crush Naruto. Did I get him? Toph asked no one in particular, but was soon answered with a powerful elbow drop on her skull. Before she could hit the ground, she was stopped by Naruto's knee, and was sent back painfully. Naruto, however, grabbed her arm, and threw her at Katara, sending them sprawling on the ground. Hey Azula, fighting these children to a bloody pulp is not fun at all. Naruto rubbed the back of his head before a few of Mai's stilettos found their mark, and were buried deep inside of Naruto's flesh. Before he could even comment on what had happened, Ty Lee had rushed in, and was successful in cutting off his chakra. He stumbled back, and was greeted by Suki's sword. Team Avatar thought they had won when they saw the sword poking out of Naruto's chest, but was soon shocked to see Naruto looking at them with the same insane smile that he always wore. You guys really think that would kill me? What part of immortality didn't you understand? With minimal effort, Naruto broke the sword in two, and grabbed Suki by her neck. As if she weighed nothing, Naruto lifted her up high into the air, and prepared a Rasengan in his other hand. Goodbye Kyoshi warrior! Suki! Sokka screamed, as he watched, in slow motion, the deadly ball of chakra, and air make its way towards his girlfriend. But just before the ball of death could even touch her, something barreled into Naruto, knocking him to the ground, and letting Suki escape certain death. Your fight is with me, Naruto! Aang exclaimed, as he got into a battle stance with his glider in hand. Aang didn't even give Naruto a chance, as he started to bombard Naruto with air, water, fire, and earth attacks simultaneously. Naruto, to his credit, didn't even move a single inch from where he was standing, his crimson eyes fixated on Aang's form through the growing dust cloud. At the end of it all, Aang was kneeling down, sweat pouring down from his face. He was visibly shaking from exhaustion caused by the all-out attack on Naruto. His eyes were half-lidded, a sign that said he was going to faint sooner or later. All 4 elements without the avatar state. Now that is an impressive feat. From the other side of the cloud of smoke, clapping could be heard accompanied by joyous laughter. I could see that you have improved if only by a pinch. A hand shot out of the cloud, and grasped Aang's neck tightly. The sheer force of the choke was causing Aang's eyes to roll back into his skull. Across the battlefield, Zuko was seething. Naruto was just toying with them, that was obvious. They could not even put a scratch on his new form. Zuko had to think, what could distract him long enough for Aang to use his energy bending? He quickly scanned the battlefield, and found what he was looking for. Guys, I'm gonna need your help in this. Naruto was enjoying the look the avatar was expressing. Just a few more seconds until the light would leave his eyes. That's it Aang, just go to sleep. Let go of all your worries, just a few more seconds, and he would be dead. That is until he heard the familiar crackling sound of lightning. You have got to be kidding me. Just as Naruto thought, when he looked behind him, Zuko was actually lightning bending. Of all the times he could bend lightning, he was doing it now, and by how his body was positioned, Zuko wasn't aiming for him. But, damn it, Azula watch out, Raikiri. In a flash, Zuko's lightning was literally cut in two, making it swerve away from a stunned Azula. Damn it, thought Naruto, as he made to move towards Zuko, but was unable to move. He looked down, and saw that his legs were encased in a mixture of rock and metal. Before he could do anything, 2 rock pillars caught both of his hands, and spread them apart from each other. Just as things looked grim, Mai threw more than a handful of knives at Naruto, which was followed up by Ty Lee's pressure point combo. After that, Zuko followed up by blasting Naruto with lightning over and over again. Aang, do it now! Not even giving the smoke a chance to clear, Aang charged towards Naruto in all of his avatar state glory. With his whole body glowing green, he punched Naruto on his forehead and stomach. "This is the end," Aang exclaimed, as green light engulfed the whole palace. And just as soon as the light appeared, it started to fade, revealing Naruto and Aang, who were still frozen in their respective spots. "I won," Aang said in between labored breathing. Naruto gave a weak smile at Aang, before he poofed out of existence. "A clone? Were we fighting a clone all along?" Zuko exclaimed, as his muscles screamed at him for some rest. Their attention was drawn towards Azula, who was laughing so hard that she was clutching her sides. "You actually thought he would fall for the same trick twice. You and the Avatar are dumber than I thought, Zuzu, but enough of the jokes already. Naruto kills them." Seemingly out of nowhere, Naruto appeared in front of the Avatar, and delivered a punch to his stomach that sent a ripple to go through his whole body, before blood started to erupt from his mouth and nose. One down, spinning on the balls of his feet, Naruto delivered a roundhouse kick that sent Zuko through a few buildings. Two with the last of the serious threats dealt with, Naruto leisurely went through a few hand seals before saying the jutsu's name. Nien Shoujo no Jutsu, Temple of Nirvana. In the visions of Katara, Sokka, Suki, Toph, Ty Lee, and Mai, they were seeing an endless rain of feathers, and for reasons they could not comprehend, their eyelids started to droop before all of them fell unconscious. 10 seconds to beat all of them," Naruto said to Azula, as he walked towards her. 10 seconds to bring the whole world to their knees. A new record. I think Naruto wanted to just scoop up Azula in his arms, and carry her off to the bedroom, but had to stop in his tracks, as Aang was back in his avatar state along with the sphere of fire, wind, water, and earth surrounding him. "We will not permit this. We will not let the world fall into darkness." Aang crashed into the outstretched hand of Naruto, who didn't even look tired. His hand was successfully stopping the deadly ball of elements from reaching Azula. He looked into Aang's glowing blue eyes before scoffing. "You just won't give up, huh?" He raised his right hand, and created an ordinary Rasengan. He looked back at the enraged avatar, and smiled. "Bet you that this palm-sized attack could decimate yours." Rasengan! The attacks met head-on, and for a moment, they seemed to be even with one another. Until Naruto's Rasengan started to push through Aang's defense. "This is the end of Avatar," Naruto exclaimed, and with one final push, Naruto carved a bloody gaping hole in Aang's chest where his heart should be. Naruto smiled when Aang started to vomit blood while he was still impaled on his outstretched arm. "Bye-bye, pathetic Avatar." Naruto threw Aang into a pile of rubble a few feet away before returning to Azula's side. "Now that everything's done, why don't we celebrate?" He wrapped an arm around Azula before heading towards the palace. "Oh wait," Naruto stopped mid-step, and turned to the body of Aang. Going through a quick succession of hand seals, he called out the name of a familiar jutsu. "Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu, Great Fireball." Naruto watched Aang's body burn for a few seconds before turning to leave. 0, 0, 0, 0. 10 years later, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Azula stood atop the podium, overlooking all of her subjects. A smile was present on her face, as she raised a delicate hand to silence the crowd. "Today," Azula started, as she let her voice echo throughout the crowd, "we are celebrating the 9th anniversary of the Fire Empire's creation." This elicited a thunderous applause, and cheers from the crowd. Azula led them, and spoke only when the crowd had settled. "This is a joyous day indeed, for it marks the supremacy of our country, the supremacy of our people, and the supremacy of your leader." This caused the crowd to burst into another round of cheering and applause. "Enjoy the week-long festivities, and let the Fire Empire continue its prosperous reign." Azula left the podium, and entered the palace. The sounds of celebrations and fireworks could be heard echoing throughout the royal palace. An excellent speech by Lord Naruto appeared beside Azula, as if he was always there. Even though it had been 10 years, Naruto still retained his 16-year-old body at the request of Azula. It was probably because Azula wanted to be the superior person inside the relationship. Naruto just thought she was a closet shota, but that was straying off topic. "So, what are your plans for today, Azula? Watch the fireworks? Or perhaps binge drinking? I remember when people started drinking in my village, it somehow always ends up with me in the hospital." Though Naruto was actually caught off guard when Azula slammed him into a wall and said 2 words, "Shut up." With that, Azula started to kiss Naruto passionately, running her hands through his hair, and grabbing a handful from time to time. Naruto himself couldn't help but run his hands inside Azula's robes. She had filled out quite nicely. She had maintained her lithe figure, but was taller than Naruto by at least 1.5 feet. Her body wasn't overly muscled, but maintained its fit look. Her assets also grew to an extent that would even make the late Hinata blush red. "Oh, so feisty, Azula." Azula started to trail kisses from his neck down. She stopped when she saw Naruto's pants. "I told you I hated belts." Before she could go any further, a hand stopped her, specifically Naruto's. "Why don't we continue it in the bedroom?" As they entered the bedroom, they were greeted by a few familiar faces, namely the faces of Mai, Ty Lee, Katara, Suki, and surprisingly Toph. After the battle, Azula had ordered Naruto to brainwash these three girls. Apparently, Azula swung both ways. Naruto couldn't help but feel left out at times when she preferred her little over him. But live, and let live, I suppose. But that didn't mean she wasn't loyal to Naruto. In fact, Azula was very loyal, and overly protective. She would always bark at any woman who looked at Naruto in that way, and always made it a point to show him off to others. Naruto watched, as the girls swarmed Azula, covering her in kisses and soft caresses. Naruto just stood at the side, and waited for his turn. Thinking back at things, Azula wasn't lenient to everyone. Zuko and Iroh were locked up in the deepest part of Boiling Rock where the sun couldn't even reach them. Her father was probably already dead or something. As for the other rebels, Azula made sure to make an example of them by burning them alive in public. Yup, things were right in the world, and in the end, Naruto was still able to fulfill his dream of being the Hokage. Like how the past Hokages served under the Fire Daimyo, he was serving under the Fire Empress. Naruto saw Azula's bare back, and smiled. Unseen to anyone, there was an invisible seal array placed on her back. It was a variation of a time-space jutsu that Naruto had created. Bearing that seal on you meant that you were immortal. Naruto made sure that it was perfect, and the end result would be both of them, and possibly the girls too, would live out the rest of their eternal lives ruling over the world. And on the sides would be the partying, the orgies, and any other things that would pop up in Azula's mind. With Naruto's transformation abilities, he could play out any fantasies that Azula wanted, which was actually fun most of the time. "Naruto, my love, why don't you join us?" Azula's soft yet seductive voice snapped Naruto out of his thoughts, as he saw his lover, along with the girls already ready to receive him on the bed. About damn time things started looking up for me. The end. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time, till then sayonara.